into the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
So anyway, that's who wins at WrestleMania this year.
Welcome everybody to AfterBuzz TV as we cover the UFC Fight Night that happened last night. One night ago from London and the O2 Arena, London, England.
Now
have you guys ever been to London, England?
36 hours from 36 hours ago, maybe.
Have you guys ever been there to London?
Yes, I have.
I haven't.
Really? What were we in London for?
I was there actually. Well, I've been there on a couple different occasions. Not very recently. The last time I was there was to attend a Cage Rage event. Okay. When I was working with Elite XC.
Was it in the O2 Arena?
No. Yeah, that would have been nice.
Because
didn't I say it was a Cage Rage event?
UFC Fight Night '84 was from the O2 Arena in London, England.
The O2, obviously, I think it was pretty new at that point. I was there like last. Would have been 07. I think the last Cage Rage I was at was it was only one event, but it was Ken Shamrock versus Buzzberry. The Elite XC deal with Cage Rage was pretty new. This was one of the first events they did under that thing, and it was the only Cage Rage to go to be aired on Showtime.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a cool event. Ken Shamrock's son, one of the few fights that Ken Shamrock's son had on that show. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna talk all about UFC Fight Night '84. But first things first, let everybody know who you guys are.
Check it. Your mic sounds weak. Remember that, skeezer. We're better than Napoleon, Hitler, or Caesar. I'm a hitman, but I'm not for hire. Fly girl beside the man you admire. She'll rock you in the cage, and then after dark, because she's a killer in the daytime. And then after dark, I fucked that part up. But don't never ever mess with the king of the sound. LL Cool J, the baddest around! I practiced that all week.
You're doing that because somebody gave you a negative comment on the last one.
No, that was I wanted to do this last time, but I hadn't written the rhyme yet.
We were supposed to work on that together.
Yeah, can you at least drop a few lines for her?
I put her over.
It was cool.
She'll rock you in the cage. And
well, I'm George Hermoza because you guys been hogging my airtime.
And we'll leave a mark. That was the line.
You can follow me at G Hermoza on Twitter and on Instagram. We're going to talk all about UFC Fight Night '84 that happened on Fight Pass. Exclusively on Fight Pass. You can't watch it on Fox Sports 1, 2, pay-per-view Fox. Only on Fight Pass, which you could have got for $9.99.
Shout out to Eric Winter, now leading Fight Pass. I think the executive vice president, or he's pretty much head in charge of Fight Pass. They brought him over from Yahoo, and he's got some big things in store.
I mean, with all due respect to Joanna and Jacek and Jessica Penne, who had a title fight on Fight Pass, I think that this was probably the biggest Fight Night Pass event that they've had since it started.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Bisping, as I think about it, I mean, Bisping is kind of the Fight Night main event king. No one's really talked about it, but 2 matches, 2 main events, I think, in Macau, right? No, it was Bisping and Lee, and Kong had another one. Maybe I'm thinking of Kong, but Bisping is main evented at several Fight Passes.
But Anderson Silva has never before. And this is
Not till now.
A lot of people who think that he is the greatest fighter of all time. I mean, we'll talk about a little bit more of that if you guys agree with that statement. I personally don't. But yeah, I mean, what'd you guys think of the fight?
It was crazy.
First off, did you guys have any streaming issues? Because I know a lot of times, obviously you're streaming it, whether you're watching it on your TV. I personally watch it on my TV. Perfectly fine. No buffering, no hesitation.
I heard it was better if you used a device like an Apple TV.
Because it's funny, because I looked up at, Dana White was, obviously promoting it and tweeting about the event, and you look at the comments like, oh, the Fight Pass, it's still giving me issues. I'm like, it didn't give me a single issue at all.
Yeah.
Not a single one, not like a 1 second delay. It was just straight up smooth throughout.
Well, for me, I didn't catch it on Fight Pass. I was kind of illegally streaming it. I mean, but Fight Pass is the way to go, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
See, there's
and then
vindication
you
right
felt
there.
so bad and you wanted to get a clearer picture, so you did subscribe to Fight Pass
Yes,
for
I did.
$9.99, correct?
I did.
Okay.
That's a better price to see Anderson Silva fight for $9.99
True
than
indeed.
$40-$60. Saves you a bunch, right?
Absolutely. And the catalog that you get,
Exactly.
it's all you can eat MMA.
I mean, the catalog itself is probably worth the price alone, but now you're getting all these free fights. Another one that they had last year, I think, was Roy Nelson versus Antonio Nogueira. Again, they've had title fights on Fight Pass as well, so who knows what the next big card on the Fight Pass is going to be.
There'll be some good ones. I watched it. I didn't catch anything but the main event live. That was no problem. And I was watching it on Apple TV. I noticed. Let's see. I caught the last. I rewatched it on the laptop here, and it was fine. But once the show is over, obviously traffic drops down significantly, and I'm sure there was still. I would bet there's probably a good amount of traffic, at least of that match. In the days.
I agree,
following.
because honestly, I didn't know until maybe like the day before that it was on at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Like, I totally forgot about that. I kind of called out from work so I can not have to be home in a rush. I mean, not that it mattered because you can always watch it afterwards, obviously, but I didn't call out. I just had the day off. But, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, 1 p.m., I mean, like I said, it's live. You don't have to worry about it. I mean, it's obviously when they usually have shows overseas, they still kind of show it later on that day, maybe on a delay, maybe sometimes not on a delay, but...
I don't think that's been the case for Fight Pass, though. For anything.
Fight Pass is straight up live.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And guys, if something's on Fight Pass, you got to assume that it's live. Especially come to think of it with all the other events that they've got on there. Victory last week or 2 weeks ago. Yeah, Shudo, of course.
Glory.
I mean, that's the beauty of owning your own website or your own digital services. You can just broadcast it live, and it's not about who's tuning in at that point. As long as they come across and watch the show at some point, then it's value added. With this digital network, it's going to be about. Man, we see it with a lot of different groups like Network or Hulu. It's about quantity as much as it is about quality, and that's going to be the case, especially for all these different sports that have a specialty digital network service. They're just going to amass as much as they can. They'll take some of the bad with the good.
I always try to do the math. I mean, had this would have been on pay-per-view, I mean, how many buys would it have gone, But if you add on maybe like how many people just flat out subscribe $9.99 just to see this one fight, and also like there's probably a lot of people that are like, I'll cancel it later. It's only $9.99. Let me just go on. And then it maybe like 3 or 4 months later, they, you know what? Finally, I'll cancel it. But then there'll be another fight coming up. So I'm kind of curious how much maybe monetarily beneficial has it been for them to kind of have this specific fight, or I guess we won't find out for a month or two.
Yeah.
As opposed to maybe it being on pay-per-view, or maybe even Fox or Fox Sports 1.
That's going to be the catch, is that they will, much like when I had the WWE network, I think I bought it, or I got it for WrestleMania or for some event, and then said, all right, I'm going to cut it off afterwards. I kind of forgot. And we just said, all right, well, I'll come back to it. Maybe I'll watch some other stuff. And then as soon as I was finally getting to that point, I got to remember to turn that thing off. There's another match coming up that I kind of want to see. And I think we'll probably see that, so wouldn't be surprised if you see, much like Bellator in their tentpole events, 3 or 4 big events, main event, pay-per-view worthy main events on Fight Pass, 3 or 4 times a year, just to keep people from hitting that cancellation button.
And even next week, it's funny because I know we'll talk about next week's card, but just talking about Fight Pass real quick, where you have your 2 big fights, for on pay-per-view. No disrespect to the other guys, but not exactly main event level fighters. Maybe guys that won't even main event a Fox card, but yet they're still on pay-per-view. But the main event of the Fight Pass, the prelim Fight Pass, is Diego Sanchez versus Jim Miller.
Yeah.
2 guys that everybody's very familiar with. So kind of curious, like how they kind of.
Oh, you're going to see that a lot.
Yeah.
That's going to be.
We had Dustin
thing.
Poirier against forgot the guy's name, the Irish guy that beat Conor McGregor.
Oh crap.
Duffy?
Yes,
Yeah.
good call, Joe Duffy. That's going to be a thing where you're going to see guys. I remember when Uriah was this right after the WEC folded into the UFC. I think it was at one point Uriah. There was all this buzz about Uriah getting relegated to the Fox Sports prelims as opposed to being on the main pay-per-view card, and his counter, which is not completely a bad idea, is that with the Fox Sports prelims, there's more eyeballs there, so it helps the sponsors more. At the time, they actually had their own sponsors. So by the same token, I think the UFC is going to push for there to be this shift in mentality that being on Fight Pass is a good thing somehow. Obviously, won't affect directly, people's sponsors and stuff. I don't know. Maybe guys will start to get, quiet little bonuses for being on Fight Pass.
Maybe,
possibly. And
I mean, perfectly honest, and even myself too. Like, and maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, but I haven't really logged on that much. But I've been paying $9.99. Yeah, I've been paying $9.99 for the last 2 years, and I don't plan on canceling it anytime soon. Yeah. So I'm sure there's a lot of people with that same mentality. I mean, I like literally having most of the library, not just UFC, but Pride, WC, literally in the palm of my hand. So just being able to have that access, for me, it's like it's worth the $9.99.
Yeah. And the fact that you can watch it on your computer, there's an app for iPad. I think probably Android as well, right?
Oh yeah, I got an
Roku
Android phone.
And
like I
Apple
said,
TV.
I can watch it on my Samsung TV. So literally,
George,
I can watch
I think you sold me on it.
There you go. As if the match last night didn't, huh?
Yeah, but let's talk
exactly.
about that match, middleweight. First time in first time in a long time that Anderson Silva has been fighting. Obviously, he had that drug test failure.
Okay. You're talking about that. I thought you meant
Nick Diaz.
London.
Yeah, totally.
First time in 10 years
intercepted by the word 5 somehow in that statement. But Anderson versus Michael Bisping, who's fighting home, not too far from Manchester. But were you guys looking forward to this fight?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, very excited.
More so because of Anderson Silva or Bisping, or just the matchup in general?
Anderson Silva. I think I just wanted to see what type of man was going to step into the octagon around this time, after the injury, after
13 months he's been.
Yeah. So it's a long layoff for him.
Yeah.
And and just coming back and just to see what type of, because I follow him on Instagram and social media and stuff like that, and I see
when
him.
You're not boycotting it for Lent.
Yeah. So this is prior to that.
Okay.
But I was watching him, and he's just kind of integrating all kinds of martial arts and movement and stuff like that. Not as much as like Conor McGregor type of stuff, but more Taekwondo. He has James Mutasari there, so he's working with a bunch of other stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's always been a guy that, not always, but certainly throughout his championship reign, at least in the second half, really caught everybody's imagination. It's I was excited about the match. God knows Michael Bisping was certainly excited about the match. I mean, that's one he's been chasing after for probably close to 10 years, technically. If you think about, it was 10 years ago that he that he was on Ultimate Fighter. He won that season, correct?
Season 3.
That's what I thought. Sometimes
Season 3.
Yeah, like the obvious information you kind of start to forget and second guess. But winning it and then being in that same weight class, he was chasing after Anderson.
Well, he started at light heavyweight and then eventually made his way down to middleweight, which was
light heavyweight for the season though, right?
No, he still fought at light heavyweight a few times.
Did he fight a couple times there?
Yeah, he fought like Matt Hamill, Rashad Evans, and it wasn't until I believe after he lost to Rashad Evans where obviously he saw that middleweight is probably more or a better division for him.
Right, I forgot about that. Yeah,
I'm trying to get those facts without even looking at my computer, and I was right.
But he's been chasing after, the point being chasing after a title match, and to get into that upper echelon for a long time, and has been there, hovering between that 1, 3, 5, 6 spot at various times, coming close, and then not quite winning, not winning the one that would have put him over in line for a title shot. So this has been a long time brewing, and finally it's in. It was in the cards. It happened now for whatever reason that it had to delay. Karma reared its ugly head, and reared its ugly head for Michael Bisping for 10 years, but then she kind of gave him a kissed blessing last night. And for Anderson Silva, exactly the opposite.
Yeah, you can say that. I mean, a lot to talk about during this fight. Obviously, the first 2 rounds. Did you guys score it for Michael Bisping the first 2 rounds?
Yes.
Yes.
What do you think it was? You think it was just maybe Silva trying to get back in the rhythm that he just maybe didn't strike as much, and Bisping just kind of saw that? I mean, honestly, the thing that I noticed the most about Bisping, whether I think he won the fight or not, is he came prepared. That's one thing I did notice about him. I'm not a big Michael Bisping fan. I kind of liked him toward the end, but early on I hated him. But there's one thing I did notice, that he came prepared. He knew exactly what he was getting himself into. Did you guys see the same thing?
Yeah, definitely. I I was telling Jay, Anderson Silva kind of showed a little bit more defense in regards to kind of hand fighting, stick fighting type of stuff, and didn't really work anything. And didn't really score any points or anything like that. Versus Bisping was landing a little bit more, and causing more damage. So
Bisping knew that he had to come in. I think whether Anderson has the title or not, he knew that he had to come in and be very serious about it, regardless of how long of a hiatus Anderson's been on. This is his shot. This is the brass ring, so he's taking it very seriously. And I do think that surprisingly we saw a lot more, a bit more of a tepid kind of slow pace into the shallow end of the pool with Anderson in the first 2 rounds. The third round, he really started to open up. I mean, we saw sparks of it, I think, even at the end of the first round, but it did seem like he was feeling out Bisping a lot, certainly in the first. The second one started to get his rhythm, and we saw the old Anderson Silva, hands down, standing straight forward, back against the cage, and just relying on head movement. That was great. I've talked about this a couple of times with a friend that I watched the fight live with, and then LL here. That was something that worked for Anderson when he was at his peak. I think that if there's a takeaway from this, he might realize that he's not at his peak like he used to be.
Or even so, you can fight that way when you're winning the round, or if you're winning the rounds. But when he's coming when he's down 1-0 or 0-1 or 0-2, you can't do that. You got to at least get that lead. This isn't basketball. This isn't football. You can't come back from 25 points. But he would do that very early.
He did that with Stephan Bonner. He did
but
that.
But he was winning
at the beginning. Well, he did that right away at the beginning, and the same thing with Forrest Griffin. Now, I think that's kind of the point, is that was a much different Anderson Silva, who wasn't as old as he is now, hadn't been through all the stuff that he's been through, the kind of the shattering of your own impression, kind of the mortality, for lack of a better word, with that broken leg, and then losing to Weidman the way that he did twice. I think that stuff has affected him permanently, but also age. I mean, it's just wear and tear. He's over the other side of the bell curve of his career, I think.
I disagree.
You just really?
I saw many glimpses of that old Anderson Silva in round 3 and 5. But again, we only saw it in 2 rounds. We didn't see it in 3 rounds, which means he lost the fight.
Right.
I mean, even around 4, where I feel that he thought he was winning the fight, so he can kind of coast for the first few minutes. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, dude, you're losing 2-1. You can't assume that you're winning the fight right now.
Right.
Even like the end of the round 3, we can talk about that real quick. Where do you think that there's any I personally didn't see any controversy at all. Listen to the ref. Protect yourself at all costs.
Yep.
Do you see any controversy in what happened there?
I mean, it was very straightforward. I think Bisping was too preoccupied with the mouthpiece, where it's like, okay, you're in the ring, anything can happen at any time. Same thing, Mayweather and Ortiz.
Victor Ortiz, yep.
It was the same thing.
Don't kiss the fighter in the middle of a match, unless between rounds maybe, but no, don't head the guy and kiss him. That strategy doesn't work.
But I thought, I mean, when I seen just kind of like a little glimpse of that, and that knee, oh my god, just knocked him back.
So obviously the mouthpiece goes flying, and it's a good 10 or 15 seconds that thing's lying on there, and the guys weren't in a clinch. There was an opportunity for Herb Dean to break up and to get in the middle and stop it, but he didn't. The match kept going, and Michael pointing out, hey, that's my mouthpiece over there. And at that point, Silva really had the momentum going. He was chasing after Bisping, had Bisping on his bicycle, and I'm trying to remember. I mean, Herb didn't.
I think he seen it. He seen it when it flew out.
He picked it up.
Yeah, he seen it when it flew out. So I don't see why Bisping would actually point it to.
No, he didn't have it in his hand when the action was going.
No, but
he picked it up before
Bisping
the knee.
was pointing. Yeah, during the match.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
He had it.
Really?
He picked, and that's how he got caught by the knee.
See, that's
because he was distracted by that.
Yeah, so he assumed because Herb Dean grabbed it, he's like, all right, cool. Now there's space. Give me my mouthpiece.
He must have thought
whatever.
that that he had the time to do that.
Exactly.
I mean, split second, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Herb should have stopped the action, then picked up the mouth piece, and then done whatever. I guess had it washed off or something. But yeah, that flying knee definitely won him the round. It was within the horn. It was within the round itself. So no, it's not controversy other than it was like a brain fart on the part of Bisping and Herb Dean.
Although I do disagree with Dana White. Dana White, after the fight, they had kind of a bonus coverage, and he kept saying you shouldn't have just assumed that the fight was over, because obviously we saw Anderson Silva begin to celebrate as if he won the fight.
I got to say that was kind of funny.
it was
To see his face when they tell him, "Hey, it's not over yet. You still got to fight."
Yeah, the look on his face was just priceless.
But Dana White kept saying, if he would have stayed on him, even for that split second, he could have obviously won the fight. I don't think he had enough time.
He didn't have enough time. I don't think that Herb would have pulled him off, but I don't think that Herb would have waved the fight off, because it would have been after the bell. That knee and Bisping dropping was right at the horn.
I don't think even if he had 2 seconds left, he probably wouldn't have had enough time.
If he stayed on him, Herb would have grabbed him, stopped the action, and Anderson still would have thought that he'd won the fight, when in fact he didn't, and Herb would have had to say, "Look, no, the round was over. That's it."
Now you would probably know this: is had he been completely knocked out, would that have been the fight?
Bisping?
Yeah,
it's a good question. I think that Herb would have. Possibly so. If he was knocked out, if he was starched, like a Nate Quarry kind of, that would probably be it. Because I don't think that there would be enough time to recover in that 1 minute. Technically, the fighter would have that, and the cornerman would have that 1 minute to revive him and determine if he could go on. But then also, I think Herb might probably bring in the doctor. The doctor would check him and make a determination. Now, maybe the doctor would let him continue fighting or not, but I think that would be the procedure. Real quick here, we should include and shout out here. There is Steven Stud Hill in the chat room. 3 guys in the chat room Steven Stud Hill, that's not your real name, but I'm sure all credit due to you. Miguel Thola, and of course our man Joe Boza. Steve is saying Bisping had homegrown advantage, and you could see it. What do you mean, dude? Just because people were cheering for him? I suppose that's the other thing, too, that I wanted to say earlier regarding the first 2 rounds. Silva feeling out Bisping. Bisping came in and was working those rounds. He wasn't, taking his time. He was in the trenches right away. And I will say, credit to Steven and his idea that Bisping's one of those guys where London does, I think he can play off of, or it does feed to his energy. It does give him momentum. There's a lot of guys, remember when we talked a couple years ago with Rich Franklin? He doesn't like fighting in his hometown.
Got rocked by Anderson Silva in his hometown.
That doesn't help. Yeah, bad memories, but more, the pressure of all the things that you have to do leading up to it. But Mike's one of those guys where I think he does like fighting in his hometown there. Joe Boza says, if Big John was there as a ref, he would have stopped it and made Bisping put it back in. Herb Dean was the ref. I think that is where the confusion came from. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Yeah, I just don't understand why Herb Dean didn't stop the action when they were not engaged. Their bodies weren't touching. They weren't grappling or clinched. So
maybe it shouldn't matter. But maybe his mindset was because the fight was so close to, the round was so close to ending. Maybe that was the mentality. I don't know. I don't know what the rules say in terms of maybe it shouldn't matter how much time there is left. But it's there's 5 seconds left anyways. But
I don't know that was the bell going off. I think it was 15 seconds. So he wouldn't have heard the 10-second countdown.
But I don't think he noticed maybe until within the 10 seconds.
Possibly, I guess. I mean, it was pretty evident on TV, so
Well, let's talk about round 4, because that's then, and we were going to talk about the judges too, as far as every judge scored it the same. Every judge scored Michael Bisping for round 4. Do you guys agree?
Yes, I do. Oh no, I don't. I lied. Wait. Damn, no.
Well, let's see what
guys, my chicken scratch. I'm sorry.
Bisping, aggressive groin shot. Bisping working, landing more. Silva hard defense failing. And you put close Bisping?
I can't believe that you can actually read my writing. Dude, props to that. I salute you. What was that, round 4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, Bisping, I think it was close. Initially I thought number 3 was the closest round, but on second viewing I realized it was pretty blatant. 4 to me was the closest upon second viewing. Kind of leaned toward Bisping on that one, and then 5th round Silva. But I'm blanking. I didn't get to rewatch the 5th round, so I'm blanking on what was the pinnacle mark that actually did it. No, Bisping rocked him. That was the second. That was the second instance where Bisping rocked. Round 5, he rocked him, dropped him a second time, right? Bisping dropped Silva.
But Silva was completely annihilating his face.
Yeah. Okay.
But I did, even though a lot of it's for show, I don't know, maybe not, his little arm defense, he was blocking a lot of Bisping shots.
It's a mix of a taunt and also, you're not used to dealing with that. You're like, what the hell do I do with this? It kind of throws the guys off, and you can't swing punches in there. It's effective, although at a certain point, like the more that you do that, more guys will study it and figure out how to get around that.
Yeah. Who did you
do
have?
all this stuff? You get a body shot right in, a Boss-Rotten liver shot.
Who did you feel won the fight, Laura?
Second viewing, I thought Bisping.
What about first viewing?
First, I thought Silva.
Okay.
You gave the match to Silva first.
Yeah. But second, I think he got outworked by Bisping.
Yeah, well, he definitely did. I mean, I don't have a problem with the result. I scored it 3-2.
I'm not gonna lie, I was very shocked when I heard the Michael Bisping one.
Really?
Yeah, I remember I was watching upstairs and I went downstairs real quick because my laundry had finished drying. It's like, cool, let me go run real quick, blah, blah, blah. And then as I'm walking back up, I hear, I'm like, no way. As you guys know,
you go and do your laundry at the winners announcement.
No. It was already done. I just went to pick it up.
Oh, it was on delay.
Yeah, not delay. I put it, I think, before the ladies Mousasi fight.
Right.
And then it ended at the end of the Silva Bisping fight.
And I was let it just sit there?
I don't know.
But something was very frustrating to watch that fight. Silva, it doesn't have a chin as strong as it used to, and to just sit there and eat punches like that.
Yeah.
And having the movement that he has, I think that was just so frustrating to me. Like, why are you standing there? Like, move.
He was taking more shots than we've seen him to take, right? I think the chin is still there. Well, no, you're right, because he did get dropped down a couple of times. Yeah, but Bisping was landing on his face more than we've seen other fighters land on Silva in the past. I agree, and that's kind of my point, is that I don't think as you get older you don't have the reflexes that you used to have, in your 20s and your 30s.
I think the reflexes were there, but he's also facing a much older Michael Bisping as well. It'd be interesting to see this fight, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Is that to say that you think he took him lightly?
No, I just think that Bisping, he used to be a lot quicker. So I think that, yes, maybe Silva's reflexes, they're comparable to Bisping because they've both been in the game for so long.
I'd be shocked if, to me, that sounds like Silva took the match lightly, which I'd be shocked.
I think he took round 4 lightly. I think he took round 4 lightly because he saw that he dropped Bisping. His face was pretty much all bloodied up after the 3rd round. He's like, you know what? Let me coast it for the first few minutes.
This is just a too dangerous match. Michael Bisping is probably the most dangerous fighter for Anderson to face right now in terms of stature and what he wants to do. Like, if Anderson is over the sport, if his head's kind of checked out, then it doesn't matter to a certain point. But I don't think he is checked out mentally. I think he's still kind of figuring it out, but he's also testing to see if he can get away with his old antics. And a guy like Mike Bisping, who's always come so close to getting that shot, but then losing and not getting that shot. If Anderson loses to Bisping, that happened. Well, okay. Now there's a bigger question about your stature in the middleweight division, or your place in it. Anderson Silva is no longer the Anderson Silva that we knew and lauded about 4 years ago.
He's only has one out of 4 fights. Last 4 fights.
Yeah. Now he's just another guy on the roster. I was kind of curious. I didn't get to watch all of the post-fight press conference, but I was curious if Anderson would show up for it. I think it would have been nice if he did. Joe, Steven Studhill.
As you guys know,
tell me if he was at the press conference.
He was. I'll read a quote that I read from him. But as you know, I like to read some people's tweets from what happened last night. Chris Weidman, of course, former foe of Anderson Silva, put, "Wow, good for Bisping, but thought Anderson had last 3 rounds. He deserved it if you base it on complete effort. Roy Nelson, of course, congratulating Bisping on beating the legend Spider Anderson Silva. Diego Sanchez tweeting, "Great job, you earned it." Eddie Alvarez apparently agreed with or disagreed with the decision. Put "holy-ish, what a effing ripoff." Of course, he actually used the actual words.
So did I, so it's okay, bro.
Tim Kennedy was kind of brutal about it. He was like, he put, and I quote, "I have to be honest. I enjoyed watching a guy I used for a punching bag for 25 minutes beat up a PED user."
Ooh.
Wah, wah. Of course you're going to say that.
Well, that was a big
Timothy.
issue in the campaign going to the fight with Bisping and Silva. So
Yeah, Mike made it. He made it a thing, didn't he?
yes.
In the build up and the taunting.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie though, I really truly think that Michael Bisping thought he lost that fight. I think he was most shocked of them all.
Yeah.
Because even in his post-fight, because we usually see a very cocky Bisping. Maybe it was the respect for Silva that he had.
Right.
Because that's all we saw is him praising Anderson Silva. He's like, "Listen, I worship this guy. I idolize this guy. Like, to me, this is like..."
Yeah.
So, like, I think maybe it was his mom that he kissed right after he got announced the winner. So that was kind of cool, you know. Things like that kind of makes Bisping grow on me a little bit more. I think he's an amazing analyst, too. I think he's great on the Fox panel.
Yeah.
But
He's a smart guy. The one thing that I find interesting that I feel the rest of the MMA community has never figured out about Michael Bisping is that a big part of this is just British dry wit, sarcastic humor. The Brits are sarcastic assholes when they want to be, guys. And Mike Bisping is great at that, and he knows that it gets people's goat, especially Americans. Nobody likes a hoity-toity, condescending somebody that just knows this guy's not even worth my time. You are not worth my time. I'm just going to have fun toying with you, L, because...
Can you do that accent though?
No, I can't do a British accent on... Mike, I can't... Laura, I can't tell you. I'm just going to... I can't even speak. Look at this. How revolting and horrid was that? Anyway, very is the answer. But all of this Mike Bisping character for so long has just been simply him being a British snob, a prick, a wanker, if you will, a scrote. I'm sure you can say those words on American internet, right?
we'll find out. But
yeah, but that's part of it, and so you gotta, if you can learn to appreciate, if you know that that's kind of a sensibility of a lot of the British community or society, it's tongue in cheek a lot of the time, even though he really drives the stake home, into the heart. So that's one of those things that it can get to you and can be really annoying, but at a certain point you realize he's just being a prick for the sake of being a prick.
Well, real quick, you mentioned if Anderson Silva had anything to say after the fight. He said it in Portuguese, but this is translated what he said after the fight. "Here's the deal. You can't win one way. They try to take it away the other way. That's it. You saw how that went, right? So there's nothing left to say. I fought for you, and that's it. Thank you for the support, my family. I'm coming back home, but here's a big thing. Mission accomplished, mission given, but sometimes it's like in Brazil, total corruption."
He's blaming the judges. He's blaming the judges and corruption.
Well, don't leave it to the judges then.
There's that. Yep, absolutely.
I mean, again, if you look at the damage
It's like in
done,
Brazil. I love that part too. He's like, it's normal.
In the favelas.
I mean, I know a lot of people say the damage done as far as like you look at Bisping's face, you look at Silva's face, you completely would guess that Silva would have won that fight. But again, it's not about total strikes. It's not about damage. It's about
about damage.
Who won the most rounds?
Okay, yeah.
So that's what it's about.
But determining those rounds, damage is the overriding factor. It's the top priority.
Well, yeah, but again,
effective striking and grappling. And
I mean,
damage.
the most damage that he did the damage like insanely done was round 3 and round 5. That was the one where he did. I mean, the damage that he did was so overwhelming.
Right.
But then again, Bisping, then those other 3 rounds.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 3 beats 2 in a 5-round fight.
Absolutely.
Good job.
So where do you think, before we wrap up this fight, where do you think each one goes from here? Michael Bisping and Anderson Silva. Do you give Bisping the title shot?
What do we got? When is it? May? Yeah, you got May with Rockhold and Weidman. Does Bisping sit one out? I think
Jacare's fighting Vitor Belfort.
Yeah, that's the thing. You've got this bottleneck here with the middleweight title, and this is, when we talk about whether to do rematches or not. If I was Bisping, I would definitely sit out a little bit and see what happens with those two matches. Yeah. But I think here's the thing. There's a question with Bisping in terms of where he's going, kind of to answer your question, or to a different way of phrasing it, is a win over Anderson Silva, the Anderson Silva that he faced yesterday. Is that enough to catapult him into the top 2 or 3 and title shot next match conversation? That's what I was debating in my head. I think it would be a wise thing to do. I'd be for it.
We'll kind of segue into the next fight, which was also at middleweight. Gegard Mousasi versus Talis Ladies, a 5-round decision fight, another one. But to me, especially since they already have Rockhold.
3-round decision.
Yeah, 3-round, sorry. Rockhold and Weidman and Jacare and Vitor, and especially now that Yoel Romero is kind of out of the picture because of his controversy.
Back in, though, because
no.
The B sample came back negative, didn't it? On his drug test?
I'm only saying that because I noticed he's not ranked at all.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Which I think it's really interesting. But maybe Bisping versus Gegard Mousasi.
No. Well, I mean, maybe as a placeholder. Yeah, and that match was supposed to happen on this show. But whoever comes out, let's see, we got Vitor and I guess you do that as the Vitor and Jacare winner. It's facing the winner of the next title match. Bisping, I suppose that doesn't not make sense, I guess. But do you think that, like, if put on your matchmaker's hat, both of you here, Bisping just beat Anderson Silva. Is that enough? That, I mean, let's say something happens. Let's say the title match happens, or one guy in each of those fights gets hurt. The title match comes up, like, there's an empty slot for the title for whatever reason. Do you put Michael Bisping in there?
See, I've personally never been a big fan of guys who lost their last fight should get a title shot. It's happened before, and I'm sure it'll happen again, but I'm personally not a fan of it. With that said, if something were to happen where...
Are you referring to Weidman?
Yeah, if something were to happen to Weidman, since obviously, I mean, he's been better, but obviously he's been hurt a lot. I'd put in Bisping in there. Just because, and I say that, and I say what I said. Oh, no. I was referring to Weidman as far as maybe getting hurt. I was more referring to Jacare. I'd want to see Jacare face for the title, but he just lost against Yoel Romero. Right. But it
was a close, controversial one. Yeah, a lot of people thought he didn't lose. Do you give Bisping, let's say a title match opens up, do you give Bisping, you stick him in there? Or do you break up the Jacare?
Because I don't want to see Vitor Belfort get a shot either. I'm kind of over Vitor Belfort.
But that's just your personal opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, what's
best for business?
Best for business, but also what's deserving. What do you think is deserving? Elle, what would you do? Bisping or one of those two guys?
I just think
Tough to know.
I think the storyline is there more for Bisping.
Yeah.
You can kind of build it on. He just beat possibly the greatest fighter of all time, and obviously they're not going to bring it up like, well, obviously he's past his prime. Like, obviously that's not. You're not going to do that as a promoter. You're going to flat out say he just beat the legendary, the future Hall of Famer, Anderson Silva. Now let's see if he can win the belt. I think they're just more. It's better to market for Bisping.
I think that,
I don't even like. Like I said, I don't even like Bisping that much. But I just think it makes the most sense if Weidman were to get hurt.
Yeah.
Well, he just built a good resume, behind him, and making a good case for the title shot. So, why not?
Yeah. Well, it's either that or breaking up Jacare and Joe Boza's got some thoughts here. Trying to catch up. Bisping the number 2 guy in UFC to beat Silva. Yeah. May at 190, UFC 198 is Jacare versus Vitor, so that's a little bit far, but not too far. May and June. June is UFC 199. That's Luke Holden and Weidman. So we're gonna know about the next steps in the middleweight title scenario early summertime. Steven asked, do you think he has a decent shot of getting the belt?
No.
Does Bisping have a shot of beating any of those 4 guys?
Absolutely not.
Probably not. Yeah, I'd agree. At least not Weidman or Rockhold. But then again, I say because of the wrestling. But then again, we thought the same thing when Bisping was facing Chael Sonnen.
That's true.
And Did he
Chael
win? No, Chael
Sonnen won
it,
that fight. So,
but it was technically, but it was
It
close.
was pretty. I remember it being close.
Chael and Bisping thought that Bisping won.
A lot of people. No, Chael won. A lot of people had Bisping winning.
Including Chael and Bisping in the cage after the fight. Yeah. Joe Boza goes on and says, I think he does have a chance of winning the belt. It's hard because they have been building Jacare versus Vitor as number one. Yeah. But do they do the trilogy if Chris wins? Oh God, I hope not. Let's hope there's not a trilogy. I don't think.
I think no title fight should do 3 straight title shots or 3 straight title fights.
Agreed. Yeah. Bisping should stay in shape in case something happens with either of the 2 fights. Absolutely agreed, dude. Yeah, and I think that could be his shot, and that could be the Cinderella man, grabbing the brass ring. This could be the year of Michael Bisping.
Maybe
something happens in that title match, and you throw Michael in there.
Well. Yeah. We're running down the rest of the card because I really want to talk about a lot's happened since the last time we were here. A certain main event has been changing, but in the welterweight division, Tom Breeze defeated Kitai Nakamura. I thought Breeze looked good. I thought he could have been a little bit better. I mean, just the size difference alone, I thought he should have completely destroyed Nakamura.
I wasn't expecting too much of a destruction, but that was, I kind of how many let's see, decisions. 1, 2, 3,
I'll run it down right now.
5.
I'll run it down right now because
I started to tune out, to be honest.
Well, another guy I was a big fan of, Brad Pickett, defeated Francisco Rivera by decision.
Close decision.
I've always been a Brad Pickett fan.
Did you vote? Did you score that for Pickett?
I did.
I did not.
Really?
I gave it to Cisco for the first 2 rounds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so did another judge. Because it was split decision.
Yeah.
Makwan Amirkhani defeated Mike Wilkinson, decision.
Mr. Finland.
Davey Grant defeated Marlon Vera, decision. Scott Askham with an awesome KO against Chris Dempsey. You guys see that?
Yeah.
This is awesome. Arnold Allen defeated Yalton Meza, decision. Christoph Jotko defeated Brad Scott by decision. There we go. Rustam Khabilov defeated Norman Park by decision. Daniel Omielanskov defeated Georges Daniel by
checkmate.
Technical decision.
That's what it said. Yeah, that was it.
And then Timu Pakalan, or no, 2 more. Timu Pakalan defeated Thibault Goti.
Oh,
with the beautiful submission rear naked choke.
Yeah, and both of the Timo Pakalan and Scott Askham got performance bonuses, as they should have.
David Timur's KO, and the first fight of the night, David Timur against Martin Svensson, had a great TKO as well.
Yeah, and the second, that was a sweet one. Both those guys, veterans of Tough 22.
Yeah, and then Michael Bisping, Anderson Silva, fight of the night.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
As it should have been.
Well, we were last here on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we got the big news that the main event of UFC 196 is been changed.
And improved. An upgrade,
say that. Rafael dos Anjos getting hurt, injuring his foot, apparently. But the big talk was what's going to happen with Conor McGregor. Is he going to be for an interim title or interim title fight? Then, by the way, does anyone else think it's weird that Dana White announced the Conor McGregor fight on ESPN and not Fox?
It was an interesting point that you made.
I thought it was weird.
That day. Yeah.
I don't know.
He's probably trying to get a new audience.
But your relationship is with Fox.
I know.
But they did announce he's going to fight Nate Diaz. Not only that, it's going to be at welterweight.
Yes, once.
And of course, then they had the big press conference the next day. And I mean, I'm sure you guys are pumped.
Guys,
this fight
go and watch
this
that
fight.
one. Yeah, go and do it.
Is this the right fight to make?
Oh yeah.
Dana White did mention, they offered Jose Aldo. I think the fight that they offered him was 155. Jose Aldo first, but then he said no.
Aldo is injured and Frankie is injured, correct?
I don't know about Aldo.
Aldo was just out of shape, I guess.
Yeah, but I feel bad because I think they threw Frankie Aragon under the bus because he's hurt.
Agreed. Yeah.
And the way they made it sound like he turned down the fight.
Let's talk about that ESPN piece. Dana announces that Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, Nate's the replacement. They talked about, he mentioned offering it to Jose. I mentioned offering it to Frankie Edgar, and I agree. Kind of the way that he phrased it kind of threw him under the bus because he didn't really give the whole story. The angle that he was selling was, these guys have been talking about wanting to fight him. We offer them a fight. They say no. Well, there's obviously very good reasons why within 2 weeks, sometimes you can't get ready for a fight. God bless Chad Mendez for going out and doing it. And Nate Diaz, for that matter. And Cerrone as well. He mentions
Anthony Pettis wanted the fight.
Pettis
Cerrone
did.
wanted
Look,
to fight?
I honestly thought it was going to be Donald Cerrone. I really thought it was going to be
Me
Donald
too.
Cerrone.
Me too.
Well,
That was neck and neck though. Nick and
Nick and Cerrone.
Yeah.
Nate, sorry, yeah. So he says, Cerrone was he offered the fight, or he was thinking about it?
I think it was
But
more
then
like
he just says, he kind of stutters. If you go and watch the ESPN interview, Dana is kind of saying, Nate Diaz, we decided that's the match to make, but he doesn't go into why exactly, and that's the part that is, to me, that's the story.
I mean,
And I have my theory.
what's your theory?
My theory is that Connor's more likely to beat Nate, quite frankly. Well, there's two prongs. One, I think that Connor is more likely to meet Nate. I don't know if that was a criteria for why they decided to go with Nate instead of Cerrone, but I do think also that Nate versus Connor, that's definitely more money. It's more sellable.
it's the more money, and to be honest with you, I
Cerrone.
perfectly agree with you.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, of course.
You cannot have.
'Cause I'm right.
You cannot afford a Conor McGregor loss.
Exactly.
And no matter what the division is, and especially when your big money was, and it wasn't like I think a lot of people were arguing like, oh, should he fight someone else for an interim title? That's not the draw. The draw is champion versus champion, not champion versus non-champion for the interim championship.
Yeah.
So obviously now you got to put somebody at. And kudos to Nate Diaz. He looked amazing against Michael Johnson, but obviously Nate Diaz, like, he's up and down all the time.
That's the thing. Nate, both look, Cerrone and Nate are going to come out and they're going to perform as best they can. But Nate has this thing where if somebody gets in his head, Nate will stand there in the pocket and he'll trade and he'll take shots. He'll take one to give one. We know that that's his style, and that can lead to Conor getting a one-sided win over Nate, and Nate still thinking that he won the damn fight. Just be like, it doesn't matter. I still beat your ass. And by the way, you're on steroids too. So I think that it's a little bit of little bit of the safer.
I do agree.
I hate to say
fight.
I mean, and
Yeah.
it's sellable, man. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
That fight.
Cerrone is sellable too, but I think you need a bit more of a lead time and more burn to cook that one. Yeah.
Like, I think the fact that Cerrone just fought had nothing to do with them selecting Nate Diaz over Cerrone. I just think, like you said, especially with that post-fight interview that he had against Michael Johnson, like, you have so much. You have already so much to work with.
Yep.
I know they had that go big where they kind of Cerrone and Conor went back and forth, but that's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you knew that they could have had so many more sound bites and whatnot at the press conference.
Nate after his fight and just basically calling him out, saying that you took something from me and,
It's what I've been working for this whole time. You're taking what I want. You're taking these big matches. I'm going to come and beat your ass.
Let me ask you this before we wrap up. Should this fight be the main event?
Oh.
I don't know, man.
I mean, you know what? They're not pushing the other fight, the title fight, as much as this one. They don't have a press conference.
Because I know it's still a business. I know it's still, you still have to draw pay-per-views, but it's still a sport at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You still have to have some form of I feel like I'm promoting pro wrestling. The championship should still mean something. So
absolutely.
I mean, first off, what do you think should be the main event, and what do you, or what do you think will be the main event?
I think it's gonna stay with Conor and
As the main event.
But do you think that should be the main event? If you're the promoter.
No.
If I'm the promoter, yes, because that's gonna sell more.
But I mean, people are already buying there. People already bought their ticket. People already bought their pay-per-view.
Because of Nate.
So what does it matter if that's in the main event or not? People already bought it.
True.
I think the title.
I think it's just everything is just building up
You're
to
just. I think they're just
one.
afraid, especially in the Vegas crowd with the Irish crowd, is like, people would just leave.
Yeah.
Nobody would be in the crowd for the.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason why, if that is the main event, to put Conor last.
I agree.
Especially being Vegas.
Which
and
obviously they always have Irish fans coming in.
Irish fans are very numbered there, and if they put Conor co-main event, everybody's gonna leave after him.
I think that's what they're afraid of.
I completely agree, but I think it's I think it's a decision. Man, this is one of the only times that we would see something like this is with Conor McGregor to put a non-title match over a title match. That would not be the case if it was John Jones defending. Wouldn't be the case if it was who else?
But what does that UFC stand for? The C?
Well, according to Frankie Edgar, it stands for Conor, Ultimate Fighting Conor.
I can't blame the UFC for doing that. I mean, if you have a cash cow in the palm of your hand,
I understand
yeah, I'm
that,
not gonna, of course I'm gonna use them.
I think that people would still stay. Yes, there is absolutely a lot of Irish fans that would leave, and God knows, Stockton 209ers. Dude, I dread being in the same city or in the same 5-foot radius as fired up Irish fans and Stockton 209 fans representing the Diaz brothers and Metal Militia.
Oh, man.
I do not want to be in the middle of that gunfight at all. That's going to be dangerous. But I think that it's unfortunate. It's a business decision I don't agree with. I would say it sets a bad precedent, but the UFC is clearly established. Well, we're going to do whatever we want to do. We're going to go back to title match first with just about everybody else until another Conor McGregor comes up.
Have they officially announced if this is a 3 or a 5 round fight?
5 rounds.
Okay. They officially announce it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's fair to assume that it's going to be the main event.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with, I understand the thinking behind it, but it's doing a disservice to Holly and Misha's fight. Absolutely. Stephen Studhill says real quickly, you guys think it was a good card? Talking about last night, apart from the last fight. Yeah, I'm kind of iffy on it. He also says the main event should always be for a belt. Agreed, buddy. Joe Boza says Holly versus Misha is more of a main event to me. Interesting. With Conor, it's always a case of money talks and bullshit walks. A similar case happened at UFC 51. Title fight wasn't the main event. Which one was that?
UFC 151?
No,
that's the one that got
UFC
canceled.
51.
Oh, okay.
51. I don't remember which one that was. Money talks and bullshit walks. What does that mean? I mean, Conor walks the walk, though. It's understandable, but I just don't agree with it. With putting Conor in the main without a title. The rest of the main card is being pushed to the sides because of Conor. He's basically holding 3 divisions hostage. Well, I wouldn't say 3 divisions. Featherweight, yes. Not lightweight.
I still say he fights at featherweight. He defends the featherweight championship at UFC 200.
Oh, yeah, he should. Absolutely should. Yeah. The UFC should not allow guys to defend unless there's a real medical issue, which is between the management and the fighter and the coaches. They shouldn't allow fighters to win a title and then vacate it to go to another division. I think that's unfair. I think it does a disservice to the title. Because when Conor's gone, there is still going to be this residue of, it's not the same when Conor's not around.
No. Well, he never beat the champ.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He never beat Conor. Yeah.
Well, we're going to have a lot to talk about next week because we'll be back. We're going to cover UFC 196. That's going to be a fun night to talk about. Can't wait. But,
can't wait to see actually Nate make handguns with his right hand.
With the right hand
and make
balloon
balloons
animals.
with the left.
Yeah.
But and for the next 7 days, where can people reach you guys at?
You can reach me at Instagram or Facebook, Lethal Laura, 1 L in the middle.
JTAN 716, as usual. I'm going nowhere.
And I am George Hermoza, GHERMOZA, Twitter, Instagram, etc., etc. But we will see you next week as we are going to be back covering UFC 196 here on AfterBuzz TV. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The buzz you later, you know what I'm saying?
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.